This is a recording of Chapter 17 of Survive, the Atlantis Grail, Book 4 by Vera Nazarian. The game's official at the podium stands aside to allow the priest of the Grail to continue presenting our final ceremony instructions. Miramis Opu steps up and looks around at all of us, and his fretful gaze definitely lingers on me. But he looks away and addresses all of us. Champions and contenders, the games are forever. You will now stand and form a line, and you will follow me inside the arena. Remain silent in respect of this ancient tradition, and wait your turn to be called before the judges. And without another word, he raises the palm of his hand dramatically, motioning for us to rise. I stand with the others and fall into line right after Bree, with Chihar directly behind me. Silently we follow the short but impressive figure of the priest of the Grail in his formal ceremonial robes as he leads us through a long, dimly lit corridor into the thunderous crowd noise and bright lights of the arena entrance. The Kemetarion Stadium is 1/3 smaller than the Stadion. Similarly oval, but unlike the largest structure, it is completely enclosed by a permanent domed roof. It has even more tiers and rows of seats stacked higher up all the way to the ceiling. There are no monolithic statues, but instead grand pillars and fancy overhanging balconies intended for the wealthiest patrons. The imperial box is prominent among them, occupying a low central balcony with the most advantageous view of the arena below. I recognize the great golden sunburst that is the symbol of the imperial Cassiope dynasty, sculpted in relief along the balcony's front, and the row of high-backed seats sparkling with gilded metal under the day-bright artificial illumination. At the moment it's unoccupied, so I assume the Imperator, Aeson, and anyone else with them will be entering the balcony later, probably to make a dramatic appearance. Meanwhile, the rest of the tiers and balconies are full to capacity with the audience crowds, and there are no empty seats that I can see in my quick examination of the whole immense venue. The priest of the Grail walks from the far entrance and enters the arena, accompanied by uplifting music and the rich choral sound of the game's musicians. At once a roar greets him, and only increases as we, the 14 remaining contenders, follow him, still moving in a line, heading toward the center, waving with all our hands uplifted to the audience. Looking up, I notice the huge smart boards located near the highest tiers, spaced evenly all around the stadium. They are alive with scores and live feeds of the arena, then close-ups of our faces as we emerge. The center of this current arena configuration includes an oval-shaped dais with 10 seats for the category judges. They are already seated in place, stern and motionless, each holding up a circular sign flag with the color background and logo of their category. I recognize the older woman judge in the Vocalist category who gave us the singing tiebreaker task. She's looking directly ahead of her, not acknowledging me or the other vocalists. Vixameret to all the brave contenders, of the Grail exclaims in an amplified voice that resounds around the stadium. He stops before the dais and turns to face us. Ascend the platform and stand before your judges to receive their final decisions. One by one we go up the 5 stairs leading to the dais and pause before our category judge. I find myself between Fauzi Boto and Sofia Veforoi, facing our judge. Nerves hit me and I feel sick to my stomach. In that moment, the game's choir sings and everyone stares as the Imperator arrives in the imperial box. From the distance of the arena, I can see Romotat Cassiope make his entrance, wearing a deep red robe with a golden kepresh headdress that is the imperial crown of Atlantida. He is stone-faced, showing his usual dragon demeanor to the public. Aeson is just behind him, far more casual, and I see him look right after me. Somehow I'm certain of Aeson's expression. and his encouraging smile from all the way across the expanse, even before the jumbo-sized boards switched to show close-ups of the Imperator and the Crown Prince, and the crowds roar. The priest of the Grail raises one hand, palm up, and points to the imperial box, then inclines his head in a courtly bow. The final ceremony of the games of the Atlantis Grail will resume as the imperial sovereign himself pronounces the winner of the vocalist category. My heartbeat starts to race. At once the crowd noise falls as everyone grows quiet in terrible suspense. I look up at the imperial balcony, my heart now beating out of my chest. Maybe this is completely irrational and I have nothing to worry about, but based on a simple logical deduction that the Imperator has much more to lose right now if he undermines his own earlier statement, it would be like opening a can of worms to question what really happened, what I did or didn't do. And yet, what will he say now? What if he decides to toy with me, punish me for everything, and change his mind? On the other hand, wouldn't he be accused of blatant nepotism if he grants the win to his son's bride? What an interminable, awful pause. As my frantic thoughts race, the Imperator speaks, and his own dark voice is amplified to carry across the expanse. The vocalist winner is Guinevere Lark. He looks directly at me. In that moment, I understand something basic that for some reason eluded me before. The Imperator really, really needs me right now. He needs me to cooperate fully in order to deal with whatever else might lie before us, whatever disaster or merely the alien unknown. The audience explodes in a thunderous roar. There are screams, noise of every kind. In that moment, Fauzi Boto, next to me, makes an exclamation of protest, but he is drowned out by the audience. And then Miramis Opu, the priest of the Grail, adds, "Let there be no doubt as to the final decision of this category. Does the vocalist judge agree?" At once there is again universal silence. Then the woman judge speaks, raising her circular sign with the mouth logo even higher to signal attention. "Yes, I agree with the decision of the imperial sovereign." But Fauzi Boto is not done. His bright tenor rings out. "I challenge this decision. It is my right to demand an explanation, a re-evaluation, or a new tiebreaker event. It is my right, our right," and he glances past me at Sofia Veforoi, "to demand that this so-called win be explained. What exactly did Gwenlark do that makes her a winner? We sang magnificent arias, and she issued mere voice commands, faulty ones at that, accomplishing nothing." Nothing? Really? Is he being ironic or sincere? I feel a brief stab of anger. But oddly enough, he does have a point. If the official interpretation is that a natural seismic event caused all the stadium damage during which the Grail was displaced, then what did I do indeed? Nothing. They have no logical reason to award the win to me. Unless, maybe they don't need to have a reason. Maybe it can all be based on the whim of the Imperator. Do the game's rules allow such a thing? While my mind goes into a tailspin of doubt, on the other side of me, surprisingly, Sofia Veforoi now speaks, interrupting Fauzi. "I disagree with your challenge, Boto. Please do not include me in your dispute. I concur with the judges, and I concede my category to Gwenlark." "What?" Fauzi glares at her, again looking around and past me. But in that moment, the vocalist judge says, "This decision is now final, and being the imperial choice, according to the rules, needs no explanation. Contender Fauzi Boto, you have the right to continue to disagree and even appeal. But from this moment on, your dispute must be taken to the courts, where you may hire arbiters and spend your time and resources on this pointless matter. Because I assure you, this decision will not be overturned. So persist, if you will, at your own discretion." The crowd screams, and I'm not even sure if they're expressing approval or displeasure. That is, until the chants come. "Gwen Lark! Champion! Champion!" My own pulse calms down, my nerves settling, at least in this regard, because I know in my gut that regardless of what Fauzi Boto might continue to think or do, the Imperator made his public choice in my favor, and it is irrefutable. I won, and it's official, no matter on what shaky grounds, quite literally, the decision is based. Now that my vocalist category has been decided, I remain standing before the judge while Sophia and Fauzi are told to step back. The priest of the Grail instructs them to descend from the dais into the floor of the arena and wait at the foot of the stairs. Eventually they will be dismissed, but not until the two remaining category tiebreakers take place. From the corner of my eye, I watch Fauzi's angry, confused face and Sophia's stoic one as they remain below, resigned. There is something tragic about the sight of them, and I feel a moment of real sorrow on their behalf. What desperate hopes and dreams are being shattered right now for them, their families and loved ones? Forcibly, I turn my attention back to the judges and the remaining contenders. Miramis Opu is announcing the next contested category, that of scientist. The scientist judge raises his circular sign with the Atom Cloud logo and looks at Chihar Aguath and Rea Bunit. Contenders, your tiebreaker event will determine which one of you is the winner. You must impress me with your abilities to solve the problem presented to you. Bring forth the materials for the scientist category. At once, 3 game staff, dressed in blue, come running across the arena, carrying 2 small folding tables, a large tray with 20 bottles, and 2 round stones, each one the size of a bowling ball. The audience noise increases as they ascend the dais and quickly set up the little tables before the 2 contenders. 1 stone ball is placed on each table, and each is surrounded by 10 bottles from the tray. Apparently, each of the bottles contains a different substance because they have 10 different color-coded labels, one of each kind per table. Chihar and Rea wait nervously. Contenders, your task is the following. Use any of these 10 common chemical substances presented here to destroy the stone before you. Some of these substances are highly toxic, others are benign until mixed with each other. All are potentially lethal, so take care not to become contaminated with them. Use as many or as few of the chemicals as you like. The first person to cause the stone to crack and crumble most effectively will win the category. You have 10 minutes to achieve your task. If neither one of you succeeds by the time the alarm sounds, you will have to perform a second task. Are you ready? When the bell tone sounds, you may begin. In seconds, a sound of 3 ringing bells echoes across the stadium. At once, Chihar and Rea approach the table and start grabbing bottles to read their labels. I watch with pity as they keep turning the bottles and picking up others, examining the stone, pausing to think, starting to pick up the items again, all while the audience roars at them. Visually, it's not a particularly exciting or physical task, but because of the high stakes involved, the audience betting goes wild. In moments, the great scoreboards all around the Kemetarion start filling with rows of numbers as the thousands of additional bets from the media feeds start pouring in to complicate the already rapid-fire changes in the tallies. Minutes tick. I realize the pressure on Chihar and his rival is astounding. I have no idea what kind of chemicals they have at their disposal and how much or how little is in each bottle. They have to plan wisely because once they use up any given bottle, they're out of that substance. Furthermore, the combinations of the 10 substances might result in dangerous poisons or toxic fumes. Rea Bunit is the one who opens the first bottle and pours its contents onto the round stone. A second one quickly follows, and there's a hiss from the stone's surface. Chihar takes a bit longer to begin his own process. He selects 2 different bottles and opens them slowly with extra care. His bandaged hand doesn't give him the full range of finger movement. And then he methodically pours them together over the stone, resulting in a thick vapor while his stone begins to sizzle. This goes on for a few more minutes as both contenders open more bottles, and there's a lot of hissing, sizzling, and noxious fumes. When the final alarm sounds and they cease their efforts and step back, both stones have cracked in multiple pieces, but the one that appears most eroded is Rhea's stone. Chihar's expression is normally bland and hard to read, but now it deepens with a kind of weary despair that summarizes all the ordeals and brutal effort that this older man had to go through to get to this moment. He closes his eyes for an instant and lets out a deeply held breath, and then he stands motionless, staring at nothing before him. My heart breaks for Chihar as the scientist judge raises his circular sign and announces, "The scientist category winner is Rhea Bunit." The audience screams as the woman's face beams with jubilation, and she raises both hands to wave at the crowds. "Rhea! Rhea! Champion! Champion!" they shout. Rhea Bunit remains standing proudly before her judge. Meanwhile, as instructed, Chihar descends the dais. As he walks near me, our gazes meet for a moment, and the world of meaning is exchanged between us. Chihar nods to me with dignity, then goes below to stand with the others, who had come so unbelievably close to their dreams, but ultimately lost the games of the Atlantis Grail. At the same time, games workers return to remove the folding tables and the bottles and what's left of the broken stones. Broken, like their aspirations and dreams. I'm still bogged down in sympathetic depression on behalf of Chihar. My thoughts are racing in an effort to come up with some means of helping him after this is all over, when the final tiebreaker category is announced by the priest of the Grail. The technician judge looks at Lolu Itatu and Mineb Inei, then raises his circular sign with the sine wave logo. "Contenders, your tiebreaker event will determine the winner in the technician category. You must impress me with your technical skills and solve the problem presented to you. Bring forth the materials." Out of the corner of my eye, I watch Lolo standing stiffly with a very pale little girl face. I notice her hands are clenched at her sides, and she's frowning from the pressure of what's about to happen. I can feel her emotion, waves of it passing through me, and my heart starts to pound again, this time on her behalf. Lolo's competition, the large and heavy Mineb Inei, towers at her side. His own face reflects the intense concentration. The audience starts to chant both of their names, while the scoreboards once again light up with numbers. Two of the game staff, one once more wearing blue, come running, each of them with a large bag and a folding table. They set up the tables before Lolo and Mineb, then overturn the bags and dump the contents onto the tables. It looks like electronics parts and junk. Lolo continues to frown silently, while Mineb makes some kind of nervous grunt. The crowds roar. The technician judge waves his circular logo for attention, then speaks. "Contenders, your task is the following. Use any of these components to put together a functional drone. Your finished product must be able to perform at least one useful task. You have 10 minutes to achieve your task before the alarm sounds. When the bell tone sounds, you may begin." The moment the bell rings, Lolo and Mineb surge forward and start rummaging through the stuff on their tables. They pick up and examine the alien circuit boards, components, connectors, microchips, cables, and Lord knows what else. The kind of stuff that Anu and Janio work on with a regular basis. As they take stock of their materials, their faces intense with concentration, the audience starts to scream again. The crazy betting commences, and the scoreboards flash with the new data. I must admit, both Lolo and Mineb are really good with their hands. In less than a minute, they start putting things together, fiddling and plugging it, and twisting and connecting parts. Their fingers flash with sure movements born of long practice. I marvel at the steely concentration and the skills they both display. but there can only be one winner. The 10-minute alarm sounds, and Lolo has some kind of object assembled, and Mineb has another. I have no idea what they're supposed to do, but the technician judge nods and then asks them to demonstrate the functionality. The audience quiets and waits in suspense. Mineb sings a keying command, and his drone rises several feet above the table, then emits a bright beam of light. "It's a basic auto light," he says, in an uncertain voice that carries across the arena. Lolo is up next. She voice keys her drone, and it too rises several feet overhead. She sings another command, and a small bright hologram projection appears over it, with Atlantean numerals in glowing orange light. "It is a chronometer," Lolo says in a breathless voice. The judge nods in approval. Suddenly, the holoclock projection fizzles. The image scrambles and the drone goes dark. Lolo's drone crashes down onto the table surface. And just like that, Lolo's dream is done.